Council.
Who do you trust to get at the truth?
Tavis Smiley.
That's who. The conversation continues right now.
What an amazing show it's been today. I hope you have enjoyed it just half as much as I have, but this last half hour is going to be fire because the whole country, I was just saying to my colleague Dominique DePrima, who's in the studio with me now here in L.A., the whole country is watching California on this reparations issue. And so let me just bring you up to speed right quick here before I give Dominique a formal introduction and let her rip, as it were. So the California Legislative Black Caucus has finally introduced a package of proposals for reparations following the work, of course, of the state's reparations task force. But the bills, get this, do not include 1 penny of cash compensation, restitution, or repair. Governor Gavin Newsom, who I've been critical of, and other lawmakers have distanced themselves from this concept of cash payments, arguing that cash alone will not repair the harm done. Okay, but for some, including one Dominique DePrima, the state's legislative package flat out ignoring monetary payments is, how might I put it, at best disingenuous, at worst dismissive. I'm pleased to be joined by, again, my colleague Dominique DePrima. I'm just delighted that this program is spread across the country. But if you're ever in L.A., for that matter, tune into our app, KBLA 1580. On my home station, we are anchored every morning, 6 to 9 a.m. by Dominique DePrima. In L.A., I run 9 to 12. So I literally received the baton from her here in L.A. Every morning for 3 hours after her fine program. And so she has been in this business a long time. Not trying to call you old. She's been in a long time. And she's been covering this issue a long time. And so my first question before we get into the details of what they have done or not done in terms of this package is just your broad thoughts on having discussed this on radio in L.A. for at least 2 decades or more.
Yeah, a little more than that.
A little more than that.
Yeah. Well, when I was a baby, me and Dick Gregory used to talk about. Dick Gregory used to come on my show, and we would always talk about this. And I believe it was about 15 years ago. He told me it would take 50 years before reparations became a serious conversation in this country. So I'm proud of us because we're 35 years ahead of schedule,
okay.
and we've come further than we probably thought we would. By this timeline. That said, Callie House started this as a black woman reparations activist in like 1880, right? So it's not new. It's a long-term conversation. But for me, I feel like there are certain things we have to talk about as black people because if we don't bring it forth, who will?
Yep. What do you make of the fact that it is California? And I'm not naive in asking this because it could be any of the other 49 states, but it ain't Mississippi.
Right.
It ain't Georgia. It ain't Alabama. It ain't Florida. It ain't New York is following our lead now. It ain't New York. It ain't Illinois. It's California. And when people think California, the first thing that comes to mind ain't slavery. When you think about California, what do you make of the fact that it's California that's at least leading the country in the conversation?
I think it has to do with the fact that we have a lot of powerful black leaders here. Dr. Shirley Weber, who's an assembly member at the time when she wrote the bill for the California Task Force. Now she's Secretary of State. Black Panther Party, where did it start? You know what I mean? Arguably California. I mean, we have a lot of real important scholars and movements that come out of the Golden State. And we are unapologetic and abashed in the way that we move. Now, that is also indicative of the fact that there's a power base here of black progressives that is backed up by black celebrities with money and a conscious mass movement.
Yeah, I should mention. She mentioned the Black Panther. I do this all the time, of course. So she's used to being embarrassed this way. Well, maybe not embarrassed, but I put her on the spot. The voice you hear, Dominique DePrima, she is the daughter of two amazing Americans. Her father is the late great Amir Baraka. Her mother is the late great Diane DePrima, hence Dominique DePrima. But those are her parents. So she comes from a legacy of freedom fighters, Mr. Baraka and Ms. DePrima, a legacy of freedom fighters. And so she gets it honest. And so when you hear her for the rest of this conversation, just keep in mind that's her mom and her daddy. So you understand why she feels the way she feels about this and many other issues. So let me just yield to you. Give me and the national audience a sense of what these black legislators in California have put forth. We know ain't no money on the table yet. We'll talk about that part.
Right.
But what are they saying?
Okay, and I would also add that even though California may not be a slave state, enslaved people were here, and they were exploited here, and the legacy of Jim Crow is here. And as you saw with the Bruce's Beach story, the other legacies of the theft of black wealth also impact California. So thus, the task force was appropriate. So the Legislative Black Caucus here for the state of California has put forth 14 bills, and then Senator Steve Bradford put forth 2 that were separate from that, but arguably the most important. So let's start with those. Okay. Senator Bradford has proposed a Freedmen's Bureau for the state of California, which would process any funding or any programs that have to do with reparations, reparatory justice. And it would be a hub, something like what we had federally during the Reconstruction that was abolished. And his other bill, which is more recent and somewhat sort of kind of addresses the money issue, is meant to take 6% of the funds, new funds, coming into the state's rainy day fund, emergency fund, and set it aside for reparations programs, whatever they might be. That's critical because if we ever do pass cash reparations, there has to be a legislative mechanism in order for that to happen, and there has to be an agency to dispense it. So basically what Bradford is proposing are 2 pieces of the puzzle that we would need to get to cash reparations. So they're very important.
So the argument right now, there are a number of them. Let me just throw them at you and let you respond. So one argument is the polling data indicates in this state that while fellow citizens up and down California are sympathetic to the plight of black people and what our ancestors had to endure, they don't think cash payments is the way. So one, you've got data that says that we should not pay our way. We can't pay our way out of this. That's what the electorate says here in California. The other argument, to your point of a moment ago, is that while Gavin Newsom inherited a very nice surplus from the former governor Jerry Brown, California is now facing a deficit. Those are 2 of the arguments being used to say why we can't do cash payments right now, even if we wanted to, although the data says we don't want to. Your response.
Right. So first of all, to the polling, I would love to keep talking about this because I think we can educate people and bring them along like we do with any topic. I'm sure at one point, if you would have polled people, they would have wanted to keep slavery forever. And after a while, as the abolitionists continue their conversation, they're able to sway public opinion. But the other thing is reparations is not a popularity contest, Tavis. It is a debt. If I owe you money, do I get to go around and ask all my friends if they think it's a popular idea for me to pay you back? No. You want your doggone money. And you're due your money. And that is the story of reparations. You can go up back to Special Field Order 15. You can go back to the promises of Reconstruction, which are unfulfilled. It is not a popularity contest. It is a debt that America owes to formerly enslaved black people, their descendants in this country. And so to me, it doesn't matter what the polling says, but it does matter to the politicians, and I understand that. That's why a lot of them are afraid of it or kind of tippy-toeing around it. But that's where we, the people, come in. Yeah.
So the second part of that, which we'll talk about when we come forward, is we ain't got no money. The state is broke. We're facing a deficit.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get Dominic's response to that argument when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
just right, just right, just right. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency on low Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah, breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Getting your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt can lead to some spirited reactions.
Jackson Hewitt!
Jackson Hewitt is so sure they'll get you your biggest refund that if they don't, you get your money back plus $100.
Jackson Hewitt!
Switch to Jackson Hewitt and we'll beat what you paid last year, even if you filed online. Ain't nothing to it. Switch to Jackson Hewitt and pay less for tax prep, guaranteed. Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8
Tax Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. This tax season, you get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a Samsung Galaxy A14 included when you buy an extended silver unlimited plan. So you can give your janky phone to your kid. Yeah!
Switch to Straight Talk. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Device offer ends 4/14/24. Taxes and fees apply.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dominique DePrima as we talk about reparations here in California. The nation's been watching this. We had a task force that did some good work for quite a while. Those recommendations were eventually turned over to the legislature. The legislature now is considering bills that have been introduced by the Black Caucus in the state legislature. They've introduced a number of bills, and so the real rubber is about to meet the road, as they say. None of these bills, though, contain any cash payments, and that is ruffling the feathers, just to be nice about it. It's angering a lot of people in the state of California that no money's on the table. Before I get to the fact that we ain't got no money, the state's broke, we're in a deficit right now, Dominique. What about this argument that I keep hearing that even from caucus members that, well, this is where we're starting. It's a starting point, it's not an ending point. No, these bills don't have money attached to them, but this is a multi-year effort, and we will eventually get to the money.
Okay, 2 things about that. Number one, you got to put the ask out. You got to strike while the iron is hot. Mm-hmm. You don't wait until, the window of opportunity closes. 2020 raised a lot of people's consciousness. The task force did their job. They've put the report on the table and the recommendations. You got to strike while the iron is hot. And if you pass a bunch of stuff, some of it is not even reparations, to be honest. Some of it is, okay, it's a good idea, not reparations. Then people can say, well, we passed 14, 16 bills or 10 or 5. We dealt with reparations. Now we're moving on. And we didn't get cash. We didn't get that piece of the puzzle. We didn't get land. We didn't get real resources. Then that is not reparations. Mm-hmm. If it ain't got cash, it ain't reparations. Yeah.
So the argument that the state is broke, and even if we wanted to make cash payouts, we have no capacity to do so.
Right. So the reason I was making baby sounds is because the California budget ebbs and flows. As you well know, Tavis, in California, we actually tax the rich, unlike the federal government. And so when the rich make a lot of money, like they did during the emergency phase of the pandemic, then the state is flush. When they don't, then the state doesn't have as much money. It doesn't mean they have to pay it out all at once. It can be, you can work that out just like we work out anything. We can be paid out in increments. It can be taken off of taxes. There's all kinds of different ways to work it out. You got to put the ask on the table. You got to strike while the iron is hot, and what that pay schedule looks like, where that money comes from, and on what timetable, all of that can be worked out.
To your point then, is this a skill problem or a will problem?
Will.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a will problem. We have very competent lawmakers in the state of California, and I think it's scary. To his credit, Governor Gavin Newsom has supported the task force, and he has said he supports reparations. We know he wants to be president, so that's where the breaks come in. That's where we get the comment, there's more to reparations than cash.
Yeah.
And he's right about that.
Yeah.
Cash alone won't cut it, but without it, it ain't reparations.
And if I said to you, because Gavin Newsom does in fact want to be president, there ain't no way in heaven or Hades that he will ever sign legislation to give black folk money, because that singular decision, say nothing of his advancing gay marriage as mayor of San Francisco and all the other issues we could point to in this so-called progressive state of California, you start cutting checks to Negroes for slavery, reparations checks, that is a one-way ticket to the bottom of the heap to be president of these United States. That's just hardcore politics. If I said that to you, and I think I just did, you would say what?
I would say, try it. I know he won't do it, but it doesn't matter if he doesn't sign it. That doesn't mean you don't put the bill on his doggone desk. Yeah. It's not up to us black people to wait until it's okay, or we have enough money, or the governor's not trying to run for president, or the polls say it's okay. We demand it. What did Frederick Douglass say? Power concedes nothing without a demand. Well, the time to make that demand is right the heck now. And, contrary to conventional wisdom, I believe that if President Biden signed an executive order right now for something similar to H.R. 40, a study on federal reparations, he would get almost every black vote in this country. He wouldn't have to go on, Charlemagne the God. He could just go on and say, yeah, well, H.R. 40, now what?
Yeah. I think Gavin Newsom's thinking Amy Klobuchar. You recall that campaign when these Negroes in Minnesota started reminding us of the way she didn't step up for them. When she was Attorney General, when she was, DA there. Black folk across the country heard those black folk in Minnesota and said, well, if they didn't like her, we ain't checking out Amy Klobuchar. And what Gavin doesn't want is for all the black folk, including and led by Dominic DePrima in California, saying, he did not step up for us on reparations. If you're black across America, do not consider voting for Gavin Newsom. The campaign's over before it ever starts.
I agree, but I think the governor is walking the line. Because he has supported the task force. He has supported reparations. He just said it's not just about cash. And then he even walked that back when we all started talking on the radio about it. So I don't think he'll oppose it, but I don't know if he would sign it. But let's see. Let's find out.
Our remaining moments with Dominic DePrima discussing reparations in California when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA CAN also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007, they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA Can believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
All right, Dominic DePrima, last word to you. We got 2 minutes here to go. So these bills have been introduced. What happens now?
What happens now is, some of them will get, some of them are just ideas. They'll coalesce into bills. Maybe they'll get the support in the legislature. They'll go to the governor's desk. I think the apology is important. There's one bill that offers a formal apology. To me, that helps.
He'll do that.
Yeah, and that helps set the foundation,
Sure.
I think, the legal foundation for reparations. Most of the other stuff, it's cool, but it's not necessarily reparations.
How do these black legislators convince the white legislators or the brown legislators or the Asian legislators to vote for this package?
Well, for the most part, Japanese Americans have been on board.
Yeah.
They understand. I think it's an education process. Right. That's why, what you're doing today, what we do on our home station in LA is so important. Right now, there are literally organizations going across the state and across the country trying to educate people. And if you want to know, oag.ca.gov, there is a 60-page encapsulation of the 1,200-page report by the task force. And it makes the argument for reparations. Whether you're trying to convince yourself, your neighbor, or your lawmaker, your fellow lawmaker, you need to read that. That's a great place to start.
I say all the time that what happens in California politics either cast a long shadow or a long sunbeam across the nation.
Right.
In the long run, is this effort in California going to cast across the nation a long shadow or a long sunbeam when it comes to reparations?
It's a sunbeam. It's already happening. You see New York, Colorado, Massachusetts taking up statewide studies on reparations. We are pushing the envelope. It is now into the mainstream. And Cali ain't going to stop. Cali for cash. And we're keeping it going in the name of Cali House, by the way.
As I told you, she's the daughter of Amir Baraka and Diane DePrima. Her name is Dominic DePrima, the host of First Things First, weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on my home station in L.A., KBLA Talk 1580. Dominic, thank you.
Thank you.
Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until then, thanks for tuning in to Tavis Smiley. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Former President Trump is suing ABC News and George Stephanopoulos for defamation. The lawsuit centers around Stephanopoulos' interview with Congresswoman Nancy Mace earlier this month. During that interview, Stephanopoulos said Trump had been found liable for rape. A New York jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse, but not rape. Trump has previously unsuccessfully sued media organizations such as CNN, The Washington Post, and The New York Times for defamation. Lawyers for singer R. Kelly are trying to fight his racketeering conviction in Lower Manhattan. An appeals court panel heard the arguments, with Kelly's attorneys saying prosecutors failed to prove the racketeering claim or that he abused underage girls. The African-American singer is serving a 31-year sentence for those crimes. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 News source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Why settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary hair? Visit your local SoCal FS Cut and Color salon today and let their team of expert stylists pamper you with affordable luxury. Get a free shampoo with every cut. Book your appointment today at FantasticSands.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
One of the more compelling storylines in the NCAA tournament is coming from Long Beach State. Last Monday, the administration told men's basketball coach Dan Munson he will not be coming back next year. They told Munson he could finish out his 17th season at the school. That conversation happened 2 days before the start of the Big West Conference tournament. With Long Beach State losing their last 5 regular season games, the administration thought it was a good time to inform Munson. Since that conversation, Long Beach State beat UC Riverside, UC Irvine, and UC Davis to win the Big West title and earn the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. Long Beach State, a number 15 seed in the West Regional, has a first-round matchup Thursday in Salt Lake City against number 2 Arizona. This is what you call an in-your-face moment for the Long Beach State administration. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray